Step out of the line and open that case now. I am declining your request. You will not be inspecting my case. You do not consent, because you have got something dirty in that case. This case contains official department property. Do not insult me. People like you do not carry department property. Careful with that accusation. No, the officer said. From here, you look like a smuggler slipping past security. Captain Talia Voss did not flinch. The sergeant lowered his voice. Open it before I drag you to holding, and tear it open myself. The officer twisted her wrist behind her back as passengers froze around them. What they did not know was Talia's silence was not fear. It was the mistake that would destroy them. Captain Talia Voss stepped off the jet bridge into the regional terminal. Her shoulders ached from the red-eye flight. Delayed from the previous stop, she carried her black duffel in one hand and gripped the sealed evidence case in the other, the leather folder with her appointment papers pressed against her ribs inside her jacket. The terminal felt empty. A few travelers dozed on benches. A janitor pushed a mop bucket past closed shops. Talia preferred it this way. No cameras, no speeches, no handshakes with politicians who smiled too much. The next morning, they would introduce her as the new commanding officer of the airport police division. Tonight, she just wanted to get her rental car and find her hotel. She moved through the quiet corridors toward baggage claim. Her sneakers made soft sounds on the polished floor. The evidence case weighed heavy in her right hand. It held sealed documents and hard drives that people had tried to make disappear more than once already. At baggage claim, the carousel sat still. Her flight's bags would arrive soon. Talia found a spot near the wall and set down her duffel. She kept the evidence case close. That's when she noticed him. The officer stood some distance away, pretending to check his phone. White male, late 30s, thick arms crossed over his chest. His eyes kept flicking toward her case. His badge read, Officer Carver. Talia had seen that look before, the look that said someone did not belong, the look that turned questions into accusations. A second officer approached Carver. This one moved differently, smoother, more careful. His uniform looked pressed even at this hour. He leaned close to Carver and said something quiet. Both men started walking toward her. Talia stayed still. She kept her breathing steady. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Never give them a reason, but never bow down either. Morning, the first officer said. Carver. Up close, she could see the coffee stain on his sleeve. That's an interesting case you got there. Good morning, officers, Talia said. What's in it? Carver asked. No small talk, no courtesy. Personal property and department material. Department? Carver's eyebrows went up. Which department would that be? The second officer stepped closer. His badge read Sergeant Whitaker. He smiled, but his eyes stayed cold as airport tile. We need to know what you are transporting, Whitaker said. His voice sounded reasonable, almost friendly. Security reasons. I understand, Talia said. Is there a specific concern? Carver's face got harder. The concern is that locked case you are holding, like it is full of gold bars or maybe something else. Passengers at the next carousel started looking over. A woman grabbed her teenager's arm and pulled him away. An older man in a Marine's cap watched from his bench. Are you implying I am carrying contraband? Talia asked. I am not implying nothing, Carver said. I am asking what is in the case. Simple question. Am I being detained? Carver's jaw tightened. People always ask that question now. They saw it on YouTube. But coming from her, calm, direct, unafraid, it seemed to make him angrier. Whitaker raised a hand slightly like calming a dog. We received an alert. Suspicious person matching your description. Traveling alone, unusual luggage, acting nervous. I would like to see this alert, Talia said. That is not how it works, Whitaker said. We ask the questions, you answer them. I have not seen any suspicious person alert, Talia said. And I am not acting nervous. Carver stepped closer. His hand dropped to rest on his handcuffs. The metal caught the fluorescent light. Open the case, he said, or we open it for you. The baggage carousel kept turning, empty except for a few forgotten suitcases. More people stopped to stare. A businessman with a garment bag slowed his walk. A mother pushing a stroller changed direction to go around them. I have not consented to any search, Talia said. Her voice stayed level. I need to speak with a supervisor. Whitaker's smile got wider. I am the supervisor, Sergeant Cole Whitaker, Airport Police. Now we can do this easy, or Officer Carver here can make it hard. Real hard. Carver added, his fingers drumming against his equipment belt. Sir, I am asking you to. Carver grabbed her duffel bag, just snatched it right off her shoulder. The strap caught on her arm and yanked her sideways. Hey! Talia reached for it. Carver dumped the whole bag onto the dirty floor. Clothes spilled out. Her phone charger, a paperback book, deodorant rolling toward someone's feet. Her father's old prayer card fluttered down like a dying bird. Look at this, Carver said, kicking through her things. Acting all calm, but you are sweating now, are not you? Talia bent to gather her belongings. You have no right. Carver's hand shot out. He grabbed her wrist and twisted it behind her back. Pain shot up her arm. Her shoulders screamed. Do not touch evidence, he snarled. You think I am stupid? Think you can grab something before I see it? Get your hands off me, Talia said through gritted teeth. Or what? Carver twisted harder. You going to file a complaint? You going to call my supervisor? He laughed ugly and loud. He is standing right there. The Marines veteran on the bench stood up. Officer, that is enough. Sir, step back, Whitaker said, moving between them. This is an active investigation. Investigation of what? The man asked. Suspected smuggling? Carver announced, his voice carrying across baggage claim. This woman is transporting illegal materials. Probably drugs, maybe worse. That is a lie, Talia said. Carver yanked her arm higher. Shut your mouth. Some distance away, a gray-haired woman in a purple cardigan raised her phone. She held it steady like she had done this before. Nobody noticed her. Just another grandmother waiting for her ride. The case, Whitaker said. Let us see what is worth protecting. He popped the latches. The locks held. He produced a multi-tool and worked at them with practiced movements. The first lock gave way, then the second. Inside sat a badge presentation box. Official documents with the city seal and a black evidence drive marked Internal Affairs Confidential. Whitaker's hand stopped moving. Just for a second, his eyes flicked to Carver, then back to the case. Could all be fake? Carver said. These people get real clever. Fake badges, fake documents. Probably stole them from somewhere. Officers, Talia said, fighting to keep her voice steady despite the pain in her shoulder. You are making a mistake you cannot come back from. Look at those documents. Read them. I said shut up, Carver said. Whitaker closed the case without touching the paper. Suspicious materials. We will need to verify their authenticity at the station. You know what those are, Talia said. You saw the seal. You saw the badge. All I see, Whitaker said slowly, is someone who refused to answer simple questions. Someone who got aggressive when asked about suspicious items. Someone who might be impersonating a police officer. The woman in purple moved slightly closer. Her phone stayed raised. She had the steady hands of someone who had spent years holding chalk at a blackboard. Turn around, Carver ordered. When Talia did not move fast enough, he spun her himself. Her shoulder made a popping sound. She bit down on a gasp. The cuffs came out. Cold metal clicked around her wrists. Too tight. The edges bit into her skin. You are under arrest, Carver announced. His voice boomed across the terminal. He wanted everyone to hear. He wanted them all to see her humiliation. Carver shoved her forward. Move it. The walk through the terminal felt endless. Business travelers looked up from their phones. Families stared. A teenage boy recorded with his phone until his mother slapped it down. Look at her, someone whispered. What did she do? Probably drugs, another voice said. They always catch them at baggage claim. Talia kept her head up, back straight, every step measured despite the cuffs cutting into her wrists. She had learned in the army that when they try to break you, give them nothing. Behind them, the woman in purple followed. Not too close, not obvious, just another traveler heading toward ground transportation. She kept her phone low now, still recording. The airport police office sat behind an unmarked door near the rental car counters. Carver used his badge to buzz them in. The hallway smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. Big Shot thought she could just walk through, Carver said, pushing her into the holding room. Thought she was too important to answer questions. The room was small. Gray walls, one table, 3 chairs, a camera in the corner with a red light that should have been on. It was not. Whitaker closed the door. Sit. Talia sat. The cuffs made it awkward. Acting all high and mighty, Carver continued, like you are somebody special, like the rules do not apply to you. Vance, Whitaker said, Go start the paperwork. I want to hear what she says. Carver's face darkened, but he left. The door clicked shut. Whitaker sat across from her. He pulled out his notepad, trying to look official, trying to process this fast before the morning shift arrived, before real supervisors showed up. Here is what happens, he said. You will sign a statement saying this was a misunderstanding. We will release you with a warning about failing to comply with security procedures. Nobody needs to know about this. Talia said nothing. Or we can do this the hard way. Federal charges for impersonating an officer, possession of fraudulent documents, that internal affairs drive, stolen property, still nothing. Whitaker's jaw tightened. You think silence helps you? I have got your fake badges, your fake papers. Open the leather folder. Her voice was calm, controlled. It made him angrier. What? From my case. The leather folder. Open it. I do not take orders from. Open it. Something in her tone made him stop. He went to her confiscated items piled on the corner table, found the leather folder, flipped it open, ready to mock whatever fake documents she had created. The blood drained from his face. Official city letterhead, the mayor's signature, the city seal, appointment order, Captain Talia Voss, commanding officer, Regional Airport Police Division. Effective the next day. The paper shook in his hands. He read it again, checked the signatures. Real. The seals. Real. The authorization codes. All real. No, he whispered. The door burst open. Carver strutted back in. Computers being slow. Hey, she crying yet? These types always… Vance? Whitaker's voice came out strangled. What? Whitaker held up the appointment order. Carver squinted at it. Read it. Read it again. His cocky grin melted like ice in hot water. That cannot be. It is real, Whitaker said. The room went silent except for the buzz of fluorescent lights. Captain Voss, Whitaker started. His voice cracked. This was a misunderstanding. We received an alert. We had to check. You understand? We were just doing our jobs. Talia finally spoke. A misunderstanding. Yes, absolutely. Just a mix-up. We will get you out of these cuffs right away. We will… Why was a lawful traveler searched without proof? Whitaker opened his mouth, closed it. Why was my sealed case opened? Nothing. Why did Officer Carver continue after seeing official seals? Carver backed toward the door like she might attack. His hand fumbled for the handle. Talia's voice never rose, never shook. That made it worse. A misunderstanding ends when the truth appears. You kept going. Whitaker's fingers hovered over the keyboard, not typing. His forehead gleamed with sweat under the harsh fluorescent lights. Pull up the alert, Talia repeated. Her voice stayed steady, controlled. The cuff marks on her wrist had already turned purple. System slow tonight, Whitaker said. Maintenance window. You know how it is. I know you are stalling. Carver shifted by the door, looking like he wanted to bolt. His earlier swagger had vanished completely. Now he just looked scared. Listen, Captain. Whitaker tried again. We can sort this out tomorrow. Let us get you comfortable. Get you some coffee. The terminal log. Now. Whitaker's jaw tightened. Reluctantly, he turned to the computer and typed. The screen flickered before displaying a suspicious person alert. According to the entry, a black female in her 30s carrying a locked case had been flagged for possible contraband or stolen property. The alert had been entered under Sergeant Whitaker's credentials shortly before her arrival. Talia studied the details and felt her stomach tighten. That is impossible, Whitaker said quickly. I was not even at that terminal. Someone used my login. Happens all the time. People share passwords when… Who knew I was carrying a locked case? The question hung in the air like smoke. Whitaker's mouth opened, closed, opened again. The alert mentioned a locked case. Specific. Not a bag, not luggage. A locked case. Talia stepped closer to the screen. Who knew that detail? Could have been TSA. They scan everything. TSA does not enter our alerts. Carver finally spoke up, voice shaky. Cole, what is going on? Shut up, Vance. You said it was routine. You said she looked suspicious. You said… I said shut up. Talia studied them both. Carver panicking and confused. Whitaker calculating and cornered. The dynamic told her everything. Officer Carver, when did Sergeant Whitaker tell you about the alert? Carver's eyes darted between them. He called me. Said to meet him at baggage claim. Said we had a possible smuggler coming in. Deputy Mayor Quentin Langford walked into the airport police office like he owned the place. Which in a way he did. His suit was perfect. His smile was wider. He carried 2 cups of coffee and the confidence of a man who had buried bigger problems than this. Captain Voss. He extended a cup toward her. Rough first night. Thought you could use this? Talia did not take it. She stood by the window overlooking the empty tarmac, watching maintenance crews prep for morning flights. Her wrist throbbed where the cuffs had bitten into skin. Deputy Mayor, you are up early. Well, when I heard about the misunderstanding, I came right away. He set both cups on the desk and settled into a chair like they were old friends. These things happen. New faces, late nights, everyone is on edge. Nobody is fault, really. It was not a misunderstanding. His smile flickered just for a second. Of course not. Poor choice of words. What I mean is, we can frame this properly. Control the narrative before it spirals. Frame it how? Simple miscommunication between dedicated officers doing their jobs. You were tired from travel. They were following protocol. Everyone shakes hands, learns from it, moves forward. Talia turned from the window. Under the overhead lights, the bruises on her wrist looked darker. They entered a false alert using Whitaker's credentials. They conducted an illegal search. They arrested me without cause. Allegedly, I was there, and I am sure it felt very real to you. Langford leaned back, still smiling. Always smiling. But perception is not always reality. Sometimes our experiences color. Are you calling me a liar? God, no. I am saying memory gets fuzzy under stress. Details shift. What matters is how we present this to the public. He picked up one of the coffees, took a sip. The airport expansion vote is coming soon. Thousands of jobs on the line. Federal grants worth a fortune. Do we really want to torpedo all that over one awkward encounter? Awkward. Talia tasted the word. That is what you are calling it? What would you call it? Criminal. The smile finally died. Langford set down his cup slowly, deliberately. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its warmth. Captain Voss, let me paint you a picture. City legal reviews this incident. They find a new commanding officer who arrived unannounced, refused to identify herself properly, resisted reasonable questions, and then claimed persecution when standard procedures were followed. That is not what happened, is it not? Because from where I sit, it looks like someone trying to manufacture a scandal, create public sympathy, build a case for the reforms she was already planning to push. He stood, buttoning his jacket. Some might say you provoked this whole thing. Some might say you are threatening me. I am protecting you and this city, and every person whose paycheck depends on that airport running smoothly. He moved toward the door, then paused. The officers made an error in judgment. They will be counseled, retrained. But if you push this publicly, if you try to burn them down, the only person who will get burned is you. Talia watched him reach for the door handle. They are suspended pending investigation. No, they are not. He did not turn around. Check your email. Chief Pike rescinded those orders an hour ago. Officer Carver and Sergeant Whitaker remain on active duty until a full review is completed, which given our backlog could take months. The door clicked shut behind him. Talia stood alone in the fluorescent glare. The coffee cups sat untouched on the desk, still steaming. She could feel the weight of the building around her. Every wall, every camera, every officer who would choose loyalty to corruption over justice. She walked to the duty board mounted on the wall. Dozens of nameplates in neat rows. Officer Carver, Sergeant Whitaker, still there, still active, still protected. Her fingers found Carver's nameplate first. She pulled it free with a sharp snap, then Whitaker's. The metal pieces felt heavier than they should. She crossed to the command office, her office technically, though she had not even unpacked yet. The internal affairs drive sat on the desk where she had left it. The drive Whitaker had been so interested in. The drive someone had tried to intercept. The safe behind the desk was older than her career. She spun the combination, placed the drive inside, and locked it tight. Then we start before they know I have started. The briefing room smelled like burnt coffee and fear. Officers packed the space, backs straight, eyes forward. City staff lined the walls. News cameras pointed at the podium like weapons. Everyone waited for the new captain to smile, shake hands, and pretend the previous night never happened. Captain Talia Voss stood at the front in her dress uniform. The bruise on her wrist was hidden beneath her sleeve, but she could still feel it throbbing, reminding her. Deputy Mayor Langford sat in the front row. That practiced smile plastered across his face. Chief Warren Pike fidgeted beside him, sweating despite the air conditioning. "Good morning," Talia said. Silence. "I am Captain Talia Voss, your new commanding officer." A few officers shifted. Someone coughed. The cameras kept rolling. "I know some of you are aware of an incident that occurred recently. I was detained and arrested by members of this division." The room got tighter. Langford's smile widened. Pike looked like he might vomit. "That incident," Talia continued, "revealed deeper issues that require immediate attention." Langford leaned forward slightly, waiting for her to pivot, to soften, to play the game. "Effective immediately, I am ordering a comprehensive integrity audit." The room exploded in whispers. Officers turned to each other. Someone muttered, "Here we go," loud enough for the cameras to catch. Talia raised her voice. "Every stop, every search, every seizure, every complaint filed against this division in the past couple of years will be reviewed." "Captain Voss," Langford stood, still smiling for the cameras. "Perhaps we could discuss the scope." "The scope is complete transparency." She did not look at him. "Any officer who conducted searches without probable cause, seized property without documentation, or intimidated travelers into silence will be held accountable." Carver sat a few rows back, his face red as raw meat. Whitaker stood near the door, arms crossed, jaw tight. "Additionally," Talia said, "Officer Brent Carver is suspended without pay pending investigation." Carver shot up. "You cannot—" "Sit down, officer. This is absurd. Sit down or be escorted out." Two loyal officers grabbed Carver's shoulders, forced him back into his chair. The cameras caught every second. "Sergeant Cole Whitaker is placed on administrative reassignment, restricted from public contact." Whitaker did not move, did not blink, just stared at her with eyes cold as winter stones. "Any questions?" Dozens of hands stayed down. The silence felt like held breath. "Dismissed." The room emptied fast. Officers huddled in groups, voices low and angry. Langford approached the podium. Cameras finally off. "Congratulations, Captain. You just declared war on your own department. I declared accountability. Same thing in their eyes." He straightened his tie. "You know what happens to commanders who cannot keep their troops in line? They get replaced. They get eaten." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "These men have families, mortgages, years of service. You think they will just roll over because you wave some audit around? I think they will follow the law." He laughed. Actually laughed. "God, you really believe that? How refreshing." He headed for the door, then stopped. "You have made a very lonely choice, Captain Voss. When you are drowning in union grievances, hostile officers, and missing evidence, remember, I tried to help you." The room emptied, until only Chief Pike remained, still sweating. "Captain, I should have been there. I apologize for—" "Where is Detective Thorne?" Pike blinked. "Elias Thorne?" "Yes. He is probably in the basement filing room. We moved him down there after some unpleasantness a few years back." "What kind of unpleasantness?" He refused to adjust a report when asked. "Made things difficult for everyone." "Send him up." "Captain, Thorne is nearly retired. He is not exactly—" "Send him up." Sometime later, Detective Elias Thorne entered her office. 63 years old, gray beard, neat as his pressed shirt. He moved like a man who had learned to make himself small. His eyes were still sharp. "Captain Voss." He did not sit until she gestured. "Heard you caused quite a stir upstairs. Heard you caused one yourself a few years back. A ghost of a smile. Different kind of stir. Mine was quieter. Career-ending, but quieter. Tell me about the missing property complaints." He studied her for a long moment. "You sure you want to open that particular box?" "I am sure because once you start digging, Detective Thorne." She leaned forward. "They arrested me, humiliated me in front of civilians, tried to destroy evidence I was carrying. So yes, I want to open every box they hoped would stay closed." Thorne nodded slowly. "Complaints started a couple of years ago. Travelers reporting missing cash, jewelry, electronics. Always the same pattern. Stopped for random screening. Items vanish. Complaints filed, then mysteriously lost. How many? Officially, maybe a dozen made it to paper. Unofficially, I kept copies of everything before they demoted me." He stood. "But, Captain, these files have a way of disappearing. I have seen whole boxes walk out of evidence. Then we better work fast." He headed for the door, stopped. You know they will come for you. Not just Carver and Whitaker. The whole system they are protecting. I know. And you are doing this anyway. Buried things can still be dug up, detective. This time his smile was real. I will get those files. An hour later, Thorne returned pushing a metal cart. 3 banker boxes covered thick with dust. He set them on her desk with surprising gentleness. Captain, he said quietly, this is only what they forgot to destroy. That afternoon, Talia and Thorne descended into the basement of the airport police station. The air smelled like mold and forgotten paper. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, half of them dead or dying. Thorne's old office was a converted storage room, barely big enough for 2 desks shoved together. Welcome to paradise, Thorne said, clearing files off a chair for her. They moved me down here years ago, said it was temporary. They opened the first box. Complaint forms, some handwritten, some typed. Each one a story of loss. Rosa Martinez, Thorne read, 68 years old, stopped at security, had her late husband's gold watch in her carry-on. Never saw it again. Talia took the next file. James Washington, 75, traveling to his grandson's graduation. Cash vanished during a pat-down. Marie Duval, Haitian immigrant, her passport disappeared during secondary screening. Took her months to get a replacement. File after file, always the same officers' names. Carver, Whitaker, sometimes others. Always the same outcome. Property gone, complaints buried. Look at the patterns. Thorne spread papers across the desk. Older passengers, people of color, immigrants, working folks who carry cash because they do not trust banks, people they thought could not fight back. Exactly. Talia picked up a folder marked with a small cross. Inside, Loretta Beaumont's complaint, 72 years old, church treasurer, stopped while carrying fundraiser money. Jesus, Talia whispered. That one haunts me, Thorne said. Sweet lady. Been raising money for youth programs for decades. They destroyed her. Talia read the report. Whitaker and Carver had detained Loretta for hours, claimed her cash was suspicious. When she explained about the church fundraiser, they laughed, called her a liar. The money vanished into evidence and never came back. Her complaint was filed as resolved. No wrongdoing found. Thorne's jaw tightened. I tried to help her. Got told to mind my own business. Or join her on the no-fly list. You have her address? That evening they parked outside Loretta Beaumont's home. The house was modest but loved. Fresh paint, swept porch, flowers in every window box. A statue of Mary stood among roses, hands open in blessing. Loretta answered on the second knock. Small woman, silver hair and neat braids, wearing a house dress with tiny flowers. Her eyes went wide, seeing uniforms. Mrs. Beaumont, I am Captain Talia Voss. This is Detective Thorne. We would like to talk about what happened at the airport. Loretta's hand tightened on the door. I told everything before. Nobody listened. I am listening now. Something in Talia's voice made Loretta pause. She studied them both, then stepped aside. The living room was a shrine to family and faith. Photos covered every surface. Grandchildren, church groups, mission trips. A worn Bible sat open on the coffee table. Would you like sweet tea? Loretta asked, already moving toward the kitchen. Please do not trouble yourself, child. In this house, we offer hospitality, even to police, who finally remembered my name. She returned with 3 glasses on a tray, hands slightly shaking. They sat in chairs, probably older than Talia. Tell me what happened, Talia said gently. Loretta set down her glass. I was flying to a church conference, had fundraiser money. Money we had raised selling plates and having bake sales for years for the youth center. Her voice stayed steady, but her hands twisted a tissue. That Carver man stopped me at security, said I looked nervous. I explained about the money, showed him the church letterhead, the deposit slip, everything. He called over Sergeant Whitaker. What did Whitaker do? Smiled. The word came out bitter. Smiled like I was some fool. Said anybody could fake church papers. They took me to a little room, searched my bags, my pockets, counted the money real slow, like they were already spending it. Thorne's knuckles went white around his glass. They said it was suspicious for an older black woman to carry so much cash. Said I must be a drug mule. Loretta laughed, sharp and hurt. Me a drug mule. I have been teaching Sunday school since before they were born. What happened to the money? Evidence, they said, would be returned after investigation. I called every week for months. Finally, some lady told me to stop harassing them or face charges. Loretta stood, walked to an old secretary desk, pulled out an envelope, worn soft from handling. This held that money. All those fish fries and car washes. All those kids counting change after church. She handed it to Talia. Keep calling it evidence, but we both know what it really was. Theft. Talia held the empty envelope like it was sacred. I am reopening your case. Do not make promises you cannot keep. I am not. You are a nice woman, Captain. I can see that. But those men got power, got protection. They made me feel like a criminal in front of everybody. Made me afraid to fly to see my own grandchildren. Loretta's eyes filled but did not spill. Promises do not scare powerful men. Only consequences do. Then I will make sure there are consequences. Loretta studied her for a long moment. You really believe that? Yes. Why? Because they did the same thing to me. Arrested me, humiliated me, would have destroyed my evidence if they could. Loretta reached over, touched Talia's bruised wrist with surprising gentleness. Then you understand. I understand. They finished their tea in silence. At the door, Loretta caught Talia's arm. Be careful, child. Men like that do not just steal money. They steal dignity, peace, safety. And when cornered, walking back to the car, Thorne's phone buzzed. He read the message, face going dark. Captain, what is it? He showed her the screen. Local news alert. A video thumbnail showed Whitaker in his dress uniform, standing before cameras. Turn it up. Whitaker's voice filled the car. Being persecuted by a commander with a personal vendetta. Captain Voss is retaliating because my partner and I properly questioned her suspicious behavior at the airport. Now she is dragging innocent officers through the mud to justify her radical agenda. Thorne lowered the phone. He is going on offense. Good, Talia said. Angry men make mistakes. Angry men also destroy careers. She looked back at Loretta's house, the Mary statue blessing empty air. Thought about that empty envelope soft from tears and time. Then we better make sure we destroy theirs first. Thorne started the car. Whitaker has friends at the local station. By tomorrow, half the city will think you are the villain. Let them. Talia's voice carried steel. Tomorrow I will have Loretta Beaumont telling her story. Let us see whose truth weighs more. The morning news played on screens in the airport police briefing room. Talia stood alone, watching her career burn. Officer Carver has served this community for years without a single complaint. The union representative's face filled the screen, practiced concern in every line. Now he is suspended because he dared to do his job, because he questioned someone who happened to have political connections. Click. Next channel. Whitaker's attorney, a sharp-suited man with perfect teeth. Captain Voss clearly came here with an agenda. Within hours of arrival, she targeted veteran officers. This is retaliation. Pure and simple. Click. Sources inside City Hall say the mayor is deeply concerned about Captain Voss's aggressive approach. Turn that poison off. Detective Thorne entered carrying coffee and exhaustion. Behind him, two younger officers quickly looked away. The whole building was choosing sides, and most were picking the safe one. How bad? Talia asked. The local station ran Whitaker's interview multiple times this morning. Another channel has Carver's wife crying about their mortgage. Social media is worse. Thorne handed her coffee. Someone leaked that you were arrested for suspicious behavior. They are leaving out the part where you are the captain. Of course they are. The door opened again. Deputy Mayor Langford entered like he owned the air itself. Tailored suit and campaign smile. Captain Voss. Unfortunate morning. Is it? His smile tightened. This media circus helps no one. The officers involved are willing to accept letters of reprimand. You keep your command. Everyone moves forward. Letters of reprimand for false arrest, for procedural confusion during a heightened security period. They knew who I was when they cuffed me. Can you prove that in court? Because their attorneys will prove you refused to immediately identify yourself. They will prove you resisted their lawful commands. Langford stepped closer, lowering his voice. They will make you look difficult, Captain. Angry, vindictive, everything certain people already want to believe about women like you in positions like this. The words hit exactly where he aimed them. Talia felt the familiar weight, the exhausting math of fighting while black, female, and in charge. To take the deal, Langford continued. Save your reputation. Save your reforms. Live to fight the battles that matter. This battle matters. To whom? Some church lady's old complaint? Travelers who have already moved on? He checked his phone. The mayor's patience has limits, Captain. I am trying to help you. No, you are trying to bury this before it reaches wherever it really goes. Langford's mask slipped for just a second, then the smile returned. Soon, Captain. That is when the union files their formal complaint against you. Unless we settle. He left, cologne lingering like a threat. Thorne waited until the door closed. He is scared. Good. Scared men show their cards. Talia turned back to the screens, now muted but still showing Whitaker's performance. We need... A knock interrupted. The desk sergeant peered in. Captain, you have a visitor. Says it is urgent. Mrs. Vivian Caldwell entered like she was walking into her own classroom. Spine straight, chin high, decades of authority in every step. She carried a leather purse, and the kind of presence that made grown officers stand straighter. Mrs. Caldwell. Talia rose, surprised. Sit down, child. Both of you. We need to talk about what I saw. All of what I saw. Thorne closed the door, checked the hallway. Vivian waited until they were truly alone. I taught school for decades, she began. Inner city schools. You learn to watch everything. Reflections in windows, movements behind backs, hands that take what is not theirs. She pulled out her phone, steady despite her age. I started recording when that Carver boy raised his voice. Kept recording even when they moved you. She opened the video. But I was not just watching you. The footage played. Shaky but clear enough. Carver's aggression. Talia's calm responses. The brutal wrist twist. But Vivian fast-forwarded. Here, watch the glass partition behind them. Talia leaned in. In the reflection, barely visible, Whitaker opened her evidence case. His body blocked the direct view, but the glass caught his movement. His hand went in, came out, moved to his jacket. He took something. Thorne breathed. I taught algebra for years before they let me teach advanced classes, Vivian said. You learn angles matter. What you cannot see straight on, you might see sideways. Talia watched again. The movement was quick. Practiced. Whitaker had stolen from her case while Carver performed for the crowd. That same afternoon, Talia spread the access logs across her desk like evidence in a murder case, which maybe it was. The murder of trust, one stolen envelope at a time. Whitaker badged into the evidence room hours after her suspension. Thorne traced the timeline with his finger. He had help. Talia noted someone had to disable the alerts, or someone high enough that alerts did not matter. They had requested every log from the night of her arrest. Evidence room, secure storage, the old customs corridor that had not been used since the terminal expansion. Most departments would have stalled, but Vivian's video had opened doors carefully, quietly, with several officials suddenly eager to distance themselves from whatever was coming. Here, Thorne found it. Customs corridor entry that same night. Any cameras? He decommissioned when they moved customs to the new terminal. Thorne looked up. Convenient. Talia's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She nearly ignored it, then answered. Captain. The voice was scared. Male, Hispanic accent. This is Mateo. Mateo Rivera from maintenance. She remembered him from the files. Longtime employee, clean record, worked nights. I am listening, Mateo. I need to tell someone about the lockers. Sometime later, they met him in the underground parking garage. Mateo kept checking over his shoulder, keys rattling in nervous hands. I got family, Captain, 3 kids. This job, it is all I got. No one is threatening your job, Mateo. They did before. When I asked about the corridor, he swallowed hard. Months ago, I saw Whitaker and Carver down there middle of my shift carrying bags. What kind of bags? Like evidence bags? Clear ones, but they were not logging nothing. I asked if they needed help. Whitaker told me I was seeing things. Said if I wanted to keep seeing my paycheck, I would forget what I did not see. Where exactly? Talia kept her voice calm, though her pulse hammered. Old customs corridor behind the service gate. There are lockers back there from when agents stored contraband. He pulled out a janitor's key ring. They think maintenance cannot get in, but we got keys to everything for cleaning. Thorne and Talia exchanged looks. Will you show us? Mateo's hands shook worse. My job is protected. I give you my word. Your word against theirs. My word with a federal investigation behind it. It was partly true. Would be fully true soon. Mateo led them through service tunnels that smelled of industrial cleaner and old concrete. Downstairs, most people forgot existed. Past signs warning of restricted access in multiple languages. The customs corridor was a time capsule. Dust-covered counters, old inspection stations, faded security posters from before everything changed. Back here, Mateo unlocked a service gate that screamed on rusty hinges. More corridor, darker. Their flashlights caught shapes. Jesus Christ, Thorne whispered. A row of lockers, like high school gym storage, but heavy-duty. Most had padlocks, new padlocks on old metal. Talia called for bolt cutters and a forensic team. While they waited, she photographed everything. The dust patterns showing recent traffic, footprints, a fresh cigarette butt, Carver's brand. She would bet her badge. The first locker cracked open like a confession. Watches, dozens. Some still had luggage tags attached. The second held jewelry and evidence bags, each with a date, but no case number. The third made Talia's chest tight, cash sorted by denomination, rubber banded. And there, between stacks of bills, a manila church envelope, printed in careful letters. Loretta Beaumont's shaky signature on the seal. The fundraiser money, Talia said quietly. Thorne documented while Talia opened more lockers, passports, mostly foreign, medication bottles with names that would match complaint files, electronics, a child's tablet with stickers. How much? Thorne asked. Hundreds of thousands, maybe more. Talia felt sick and furious. Every item, a person, a story, a violation. The forensic team arrived. More photos, evidence markers, chain of custody forms. Everything by the book, everything perfect. No room for Whitaker's lawyers to cry misconduct. Talia picked up Loretta's envelope with gloved hands, held it like the sacred thing it was. Money raised through fish fries and baked sales. Dollar by dollar, prayer by prayer. Her phone rang. Langford. Captain Voss, I hear you are conducting an unauthorized search. Fully authorized. Judge signed the warrant an hour ago. Silence, then carefully. What did you find? Talia looked at the violated treasures of many travelers. Everything they thought they buried. Captain, let us discuss this before the press conference. That is not wise. Wisdom is knowing when to stop negotiating with thieves. She hung up, looked at Thorne, at Mateo, at the forensic team carefully cataloging years of cruelty. Tomorrow, she said, holding Loretta's envelope, the city tells the truth. Before dawn, Talia's headlights cut through empty streets toward headquarters. She had barely slept, mind racing with plans for the press conference. Loretta's envelope, the hidden lockers, the passports. Every piece of evidence would speak today. She found Thorne waiting by the secure storage entrance. His face made her stomach drop. Do not tell me. Captain, his voice cracked. It is gone. What do you mean gone? He opened the storage room door. Empty shelves stared back. No boxes, no evidence bags, no envelope with Loretta Beaumont's careful signature. The room smelled of bleach, like someone had scrubbed away their crimes along with the proof. How? The word came out sharp enough to cut. Access log says your command code opened the door. I was home. I know that. You know that. But the system says different. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Deputy Mayor Langford appeared with 2 city attorneys flanking him like bodyguards. His smile could have frozen hell. Captain Voss, we need to discuss a serious matter. Unbelievable. Careful. His smile widened. Threatening a city official while under investigation for evidence tampering would be unwise. One of the lawyers, a woman with dead eyes, stepped forward. Captain Voss, you are hereby placed on administrative leave pending investigation into the disappearance of critical evidence from this secure facility. You know I did not. The access logs indicate otherwise. Langford's voice dripped false concern. Your command code, your responsibility. The evidence you claim to have found has vanished under your watch. The evidence I documented, photographed, cataloged with a full forensic team. Photos can be staged, items can be planted. The second lawyer, younger, eager to impress. Without physical evidence, we only have your word. And given your confrontational approach to this department, your word carries certain questions. Get out of my station. Actually, Langford checked his watch. It is Chief Warren Pike's station. You are relieved of command, effective immediately. Please surrender your weapon and badge. The words hit like physical blows. Talia's hand moved instinctively to her service weapon. Not to draw it, she was not that foolish, but to feel its weight one last time. This will not stand. It is already standing. Langford nodded toward the front entrance. Unless you would prefer we escort you out past the media. They are quite eager to discuss the missing evidence. Through the hallway window, news vans clustered like vultures. Cameras ready. Microphones hungry. Thorne stepped forward. "This is wrong. I was there. I saw." "Detective Thorne," the female attorney's voice could have cut glass. "You are reassigned to records review. Effective immediately. Basement level. Any discussion of ongoing investigations will be considered insubordination." Talia removed her badge. The metal felt heavier than it should. Her weapon followed. Each item placed on the desk like pieces of her soul. "Captain," Thorne started. "It is okay." "Elias." She kept her voice level. "Professional." They wanted her to explode, to give them more ammunition. "Follow orders." The walk to the front entrance stretched like a funeral march. Officers watched from doorways. Some looked ashamed, others satisfied. Word traveled fast in a station. Outside, the cameras attacked, voices shouting questions about missing evidence, about abuse of power, about tampering with proof. Through the chaos, she saw him. Whitaker standing by a patrol car, clean uniform, sergeant stripes back on his sleeve. Carver leaned against the station wall, that same smug smile from the airport. He tipped an imaginary hat as she passed. Her hands shook as she found her car, not from fear, from rage so pure it burned. She had played by every rule, documented every step, built an airtight case, and they had stolen it, like candy from a child. Inside the car, silence crashed down. The shaking got worse. She gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. All those people, Loretta, the travelers who had lost medicines, the immigrants whose passports vanished, all of them betrayed again. Her phone buzzed. Voicemail notification. She almost deleted it. Probably another reporter, another vulture, but the number looked familiar. Loretta Beaumont's voice filled the car. Steady, stronger than Talia had ever heard it. "Captain Voss, I do not know what they did to you today, but I know what they did to me, and I am not afraid anymore. You come by when you are ready. I will have coffee on." The message ended. Talia played it again, then once more. She wiped her eyes, turned the key, and drove toward Loretta's house, instead of going home. Loretta Beaumont's front porch still held the morning chill when Talia pulled into the narrow driveway. The house looked smaller in daylight, faded yellow siding, flower boxes that had seen better seasons, a screen door that needed fixing, but the lights were on, and smoke curled from the chimney like a welcome. Before Talia could knock, the door opened. Loretta stood there in a church dress and cardigan, her gray hair pinned back, neat as Sunday service. Behind her, voices murmured in the living room. "Captain Voss." Loretta's voice carried the same strength from the voicemail. "Come in, child. We have been waiting." The living room smelled of coffee and old wood polish. Mrs. Vivian Caldwell sat on the worn sofa, her teacher's posture straight as a ruler. Two other women Talia did not recognize occupied the chairs. One young, maybe 30s, with tired eyes and calloused hands. The other older, Latina, clutching a manila envelope like a lifeline. "Sit," Loretta commanded, pointing to the kitchen table visible through the doorway. "We need to talk proper." They gathered around Loretta's kitchen table, scarred wood that had probably hosted decades of family meals and homework sessions. Talia felt exposed without her badge, smaller without her authority. These women looked at her expectantly, and she had nothing to offer but failure. "The evidence is gone." The words tasted bitter. "Everything we found, the lockers, the stolen items, your envelope, all of it disappeared overnight. Did you take it?" Loretta asked. "No. Then they stole it twice. First from us, then from you." Loretta poured coffee from a percolator that belonged in a museum. "That do not make it less true." The young woman leaned forward. "I am Sandra Torres. They took my grandmother's wedding ring months ago. Sergeant Whitaker said it looked suspicious for airport security. Never got it back." The older woman opened her envelope with shaking fingers. "Carmen Gutierrez. My husband's medication, heart pills, very expensive. Officer Carver claimed they could be illegal drugs. We had prescription bottles, doctor letters, everything. He threw them in the trash and said we could file a complaint." "Did you?" Vivian asked. "Multiple times." No one called back. Talia's stomach clenched. "I am sorry. I thought I could." "Authority is not the same as truth," Loretta interrupted. "You lost your badge. You did not lose being right." Vivian pulled out a small notebook. "Teacher habits dying hard. My retired teachers network covers the region. Church contacts go even further. If these officers have been stealing from travelers, There are more victims. What good does talking do? Sandra's voice carried the weight of someone who had been disappointed before. They will just deny everything again. Not if we all talk at once. Vivian's eyes sparked with the same fire that had made her record the airport arrest. Decades teaching. You learn a few things about bullies. They count on people staying isolated and afraid. Loretta stood and returned with an old church directory. Phone numbers filled every page. Start calling. Tell people what happened. Ask if airport police ever took their things. By midday, the living room buzzed with quiet activity. Vivian worked her phone like a campaign manager, reaching out to former colleagues, book club members, retired principals across the region. Carmen called relatives, friends from her citizenship class, anyone who had traveled through the airport in recent years. Each conversation followed the same pattern: initial skepticism, then recognition, then anger. Stories poured out like water from a broken dam. Cash disappeared during random searches. Jewelry vanished from carry-on bags. Medications were confiscated and never returned. Always the same officers. Always the same excuses. Sandra kept a growing list of names and dates. Many people so far. All different flights, different months. Same pattern. "More coming," Vivian reported. "Mrs. Patterson from my bridge club is driving over. Says Carver took her husband's watch last holiday." The front door opened without a knock. Detective Thorne stepped inside, looking older than his years. He changed from his uniform into civilian clothes, but exhaustion clung to him like smoke. "Elias." Talia stood. "You should not be here. Your pension. Pension do not mean much if I cannot look at myself in the mirror." He pulled up a chair. "They got me filing old reports. Figured I might as well do something useful instead." Loretta poured him coffee without asking. "What can you tell us that they do not want told?" Thorne opened a folder he had carried in. Internal access logs going back over a year. Every time those storage lockers were opened, every time evidence went missing from the system, patterns clear as daylight if you know how to read it. "Is that enough?" Sandra asked. "Not in court. They will claim the logs were tampered with." Thorne rubbed his temples. "But it shows we are not making this up." The afternoon brought more visitors. An elderly man whose passport disappeared during a connection. A young mother whose baby formula was confiscated and discarded. A college student whose textbooks were seized as suspicious cargo. Each story added weight to the growing pile of receipts, complaint numbers, and witness statements. Near evening, a soft knock interrupted their work. Talia opened the door to find Mateo Rivera standing on the porch, hat in his hands, shame written across his face. "Captain, I need to tell you something." She let him in. The room went quiet as he stood awkwardly by the door. "I lied when I took back my statement. They threatened my job, my family's insurance. But what they are doing, it is not right." "We understand," Loretta said gently. "Fear makes people do things they regret. There is something else, something I did not tell you before." Mateo twisted his hat. "That old customs corridor. It has got freight cameras, independent system, runs on a different server than the regular airport security. Maintenance uses it to track cargo movement in the restricted areas." Thorne sat up straight. "Airport police do not control those cameras. No, sir. Different department entirely. Old system barely works half the time, but it records everything in those corridors. If those officers moved stolen goods through there, the footage might still exist." Mateo had been working freight security for years. Never seen anyone check those recordings. Most people forget the cameras exist. The room erupted in excited murmurs. Carmen crossed herself. Sandra gripped her manila envelope tighter. Thorne pulled out his phone. "I know someone. Federal inspector owes me from an old case. If we can get that footage authenticated properly." "Call her," Talia said. Thorne stepped onto the porch for privacy. Through the window, they watched him pace, gesturing as he explained the situation. The conversation stretched. Finally, he returned. "Inspector Naomi Grant, she is driving down tonight. Says if we can access those cameras legally, she will authenticate whatever we find." The freight control room sat buried deep beneath the terminal, forgotten by most airport staff and ignored by the gleaming renovations above. Flickering fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across banks of outdated monitors and cable-thick wiring that belonged to another decade. The air smelled of dust and electrical components slowly dying. Mateo led them through a service corridor that required keycards and a maintenance override code. His footsteps echoed against concrete walls painted institutional green sometime in the distant past. Most people do not even know this room exists, he whispered, unlocking a heavy steel door. Been down here only a handful of times. System runs itself mostly. Federal Inspector Naomi Grant examined the cramped space with professional interest. She was a compact woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and the kind of methodical patience that made corrupt officials nervous. Her federal credentials hung from a lanyard that caught the overhead light. "This system is completely separate from airport police servers?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. Different department, different funding, different everything. Freight security runs on old regulations from before the airport expansion." Mateo powered up a monitor that hummed to life reluctantly. Airport police probably forgot it existed. Detective Thorne positioned himself near the door, listening for footsteps or elevator sounds from the corridor above. His service weapon remained holstered, but his hand rested near it out of habit. "How far back do these recordings go?" Talia asked. "Depends on storage capacity, some weeks before the system overwrites itself." Mateo navigated through dated menu screens that looked like they belonged in a computer museum. "What dates are we looking for?" "Start with after I was suspended." The monitor flickered, then displayed a grainy black and white view of the abandoned customs corridor. There, Thorne pointed at the screen. Movement on the left. Two figures appeared in the frame, carrying dark bags through the corridor. Even with the poor video quality, their builds and movement patterns were unmistakable. "Whitaker and Carver," Talia said quietly. They watched the officers unlock the service gate she had discovered, then emerged with multiple bags and containers, the stolen evidence from the hidden lockers. Whitaker checked his watch repeatedly while Carver loaded items into what looked like airport maintenance carts. "They are moving everything to a different location," Grant observed, "destroying the evidence trail." "Can you enhance this footage?" Talia asked. "Federal lab can clean it up enough for court." Grant connected a recording device to the system. "But this is already admissible as is. Timestamps, independent system. Chain of custody intact." Mateo scrolled backward through more dates. "Let me check earlier footage, see if there is more." The days rolled backward on the screen. More late-night visits from Whitaker and Carver. Occasional appearances by other officers Talia did not recognize. The theft operation had been running for months, maybe longer. Then Mateo stopped scrolling. "Wait, go back to that timestamp," Talia said. Some nights before her arrival in the city, the corridor was empty for long minutes. Then 3 figures entered the frame. 2 were familiar, Whitaker and Carver conducting their usual business. The third figure made Talia's breath catch. Deputy Mayor Quentin Langford. "I knew it," Thorne muttered. On screen, Langford walked through the restricted corridor like he owned it. He examined the hidden lockers while Whitaker opened them for inspection. Carver stood guard near the entrance. The 3 men talked for several minutes, Langford pointing at specific items, Whitaker nodding and taking notes. He is not covering up a scandal, Talia realized. He is managing a criminal enterprise. Grant leaned closer to the monitor. This changes everything. Federal prosecutors love corruption cases involving elected officials. They watched Langford inspect envelopes of cash, jewelry, and other seized items. He selected several pieces, slipping them into his jacket pockets. Whitaker handed him what appeared to be a thick envelope. "He is taking a cut," Thorne said. "Regular payments." The footage continued. Langford and Whitaker discussed something intensely while examining a tablet computer. Then all 3 men left together, Langford checking his watch before disappearing from frame. "This was before I arrived in the city," Talia said. "Before my arrest, they knew I was coming." Mateo advanced the timeline. More meetings between Langford and the corrupt officers, planning sessions, document exchanges. The airport arrest had not been random harassment by biased cops. It had been a calculated attempt to intercept her internal affairs drive before she could expose their operation. "They panicked when they saw the federal evidence case," Grant noted. "Figured if they discredited you immediately, they could bury whatever you brought. Instead, they created the perfect trap for themselves." Talia watched Langford's image on the monitor. Every lie they told, every cover-up they attempted, it all led back to this. Grant finished copying the footage onto multiple drives. "I need to contact the federal prosecutor's office tonight. Organized theft, civil rights violations, conspiracy, public corruption. This is going to be a big case." Thorne's radio crackled softly. He listened to the dispatcher, then turned to the group. "We need to move. Security sweep coming through this area soon." They powered down the monitors and secured the room. Mateo locked each door behind them as they made their way back through the service corridors. The evidence drives felt heavy in Grant's briefcase. Weeks of planning and criminal activity compressed into digital files that would destroy careers and send people to prison. At the surface level, Grant shook hands with each of them. "I will have preliminary authentication within hours, full analysis by morning. Whatever happens next, that footage is bulletproof evidence." As her federal vehicle disappeared into airport traffic, Talia felt something she had not experienced since her arrest. Genuine hope, not just for clearing her own name, but for delivering justice to the travelers who had been victimized by people sworn to protect them. Her phone buzzed with an urgent message. Talia read it twice, then showed Thorne the screen. "City Council emergency session, tomorrow morning. Special hearing on police department leadership and evidence handling procedures." Thorne grimaced. "Langford is making his move, trying to destroy you publicly before the federal case can develop. He does not know about the freight cameras," Talia said. Yet. They stood in the terminal parking garage, surrounded by the quiet hum of overnight airport activity. Above them, delayed flights carried unsuspecting passengers through the same corridors where corruption had festered for months. Talia's phone buzzed again. This time it was a formal notice from the city attorney's office, copied to several local media outlets. The notice announced an emergency city council session regarding Captain Talia Voss's misconduct investigation. The hearing would include public testimony concerning alleged evidence tampering, abuse of authority, and departmental disruption. After reading the notice, Talia showed it to Thorne. He glanced at the screen and shook his head. "He is going to try to end your career on live television," Thorne said. Talia deleted the message and started walking toward her car. Let him try. The city council chamber buzzed with tense energy as people filed through security checkpoints and metal detectors. News crews positioned cameras along the sidewalls while reporters claimed seats in the front rows. Airport workers clustered together near the back, many still wearing their uniforms from overnight shifts. Police officers filled an entire section, some supporting Talia, others clearly loyal to the old guard. Talia entered through a side door, wearing her dress uniform with captain's bars gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. She carried only a thin folder and walked with measured steps to the designated chair facing the council dais. Behind her, she heard whispers and camera shutters clicking. Deputy Mayor Quentin Langford sat at the center of the raised platform, flanked by other council members who looked uncomfortable with the early morning spectacle. His smile appeared confident, almost cheerful, as if he were about to resolve an unfortunate misunderstanding instead of destroying someone's career. Sergeant Cole Whitaker and Officer Brent Carver occupied seats near the front, their attorney positioned between them like a shield. Whitaker wore a crisp civilian suit and maintained perfect posture, projecting the image of a professional wrongly accused. Carver kept checking his phone and glancing toward the exit, less comfortable in the spotlight. "This emergency session addresses serious concerns about leadership and evidence handling within our airport police division," Langford began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber's sound system. "Recent events have raised questions about Captain Voss's judgment and methods." Talia sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, expression neutral. She had learned long ago that stillness could be more powerful than words. "Captain Voss arrived in our city with a mandate to reform airport policing," Langford continued. "Instead, she has created chaos. Good officers have been suspended without proper cause. Evidence has disappeared under her watch. Morale has collapsed." Several officers in the audience nodded. A few reporters scribbled notes. The victims Talia had met remained silent, waiting. "The missing property seized during Captain Voss's arrest represents a clear failure of command responsibility." Langford said federal evidence vanished from secure storage while under her direct control. This suggests either incompetence or deliberate misconduct. Whitaker's attorney leaned forward slightly, satisfied with the narrative direction. His clients appeared vindicated, professional officers caught between politics and an unstable commander. Furthermore, Captain Voss's aggressive targeting of Sergeant Whitaker and Officer Carver appears retaliatory rather than investigative, Langford added. Both officers followed proper procedure when questioning a suspicious traveler. They could not have known her identity because she failed to identify herself as law enforcement. The chamber remained quiet, but tension filled the air like static before a thunderstorm. Langford's version of events sounded reasonable, even sympathetic. Two hard-working cops doing their jobs, then punished by an authority figure with hurt feelings and a political agenda. Captain Voss has had multiple opportunities to address these concerns privately, Langford said. Instead, she chose public confrontation and media attention. This pattern suggests someone more interested in personal vindication than professional responsibility. He paused, letting his words settle. Several council members nodded approval. The police officers looked increasingly confident. Whitaker straightened his tie and whispered something to his attorney. Captain Voss, you may now respond to these allegations. Langford's tone suggested he expected either silence or a weak defense that would justify her immediate termination. Talia stood slowly, smoothing her uniform jacket. She walked to the podium positioned in front of the council dais, her footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Langford. Her voice was clear, professional, and completely calm. Before addressing your accusations, I would like to share one citizen statement with this chamber. Langford frowned slightly, but nodded. Proceed. Talia opened her folder and removed a small remote control. Could someone activate the display screens, please? A technician near the back wall pressed several buttons. Large monitors descended from the ceiling on both sides of the chamber. The screens flickered to life, showing the city seal and meeting information. This citizen recorded the events at baggage claim on my first night in your city, Talia said. She pressed a button on the remote. Mrs. Vivian Caldwell's phone footage filled the screens. The chamber watched Officer Carver grab Talia's belongings, twist her arm behind her back, and accuse her of smuggling while passengers looked on in shock. Sergeant Whitaker appeared calm and professional on camera, but his refusal to show the suspicious person alert was clearly visible. The audio quality captured every harsh word, every threat, every moment of public humiliation. Several people in the audience shifted uncomfortably. A few officers looked away from the screens. This woman is not a police officer, Talia said, as the footage played. She is a retired school principal who recognized abuse when she saw it. The video ended with Carver snapping handcuffs onto Talia's wrists while she warned them about crossing a line they could not erase. The chamber remained silent for several seconds after the screens went dark. That footage proves nothing, Whitaker's attorney called out. Officers conducted a lawful investigation based on reasonable suspicion. Perhaps, Talia replied. Let us hear from the travelers your officers have investigated over the past couple of years. She gestured toward the back of the chamber. Loretta Beaumont stood slowly, leaning on her walking stick. At 72, she moved carefully, but with dignity that commanded attention. My name is Loretta Beaumont. I am treasurer at Mount Olive Baptist Church. Her voice was soft but steady. Last year, I carried fundraiser money through this airport. Sergeant Whitaker and Officer Carver detained me for hours. They searched my purse, my suitcase, and my body. Then my money disappeared. She held up an empty envelope, yellowed with age. This is what they returned to me. Empty. When I filed a complaint, I was told travel stress causes confusion in elderly passengers. 2 more victims stood. An immigrant father whose passport had vanished during a random inspection. A black woman whose prescription medication was confiscated and never returned. Each story followed the same pattern. Vulnerable travelers targeted, property seized, complaints ignored. Langford tried to interrupt. These allegations are unsubstantiated, are they? Talia pressed the remote again. Detective Elias Thorne appeared on screen, standing behind a podium in what looked like a federal building. The timestamp showed the footage was recorded just hours earlier. I am Detective Elias Thorne, with this police department. I have authenticated surveillance footage from the airport freight camera system. This footage shows the defendants moving evidence after Captain Voss was suspended. The screen switched to grainy black and white surveillance video. The chamber watched Whitaker and Carver carry bags through the abandoned customs corridor, emptying the hidden lockers Talia had discovered. Then came the devastating moment. Deputy Mayor Quentin Langford appeared on camera, walking through the restricted corridor like he owned it, examining stolen property, selecting items for his jacket pockets. The chamber erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Officers turned to stare at Langford. Council members looked shocked and confused. Camera flashes exploded like strobe lights. Turn off those screens, Langford yelled, his composure finally cracking. This is clearly doctored footage designed to... The main doors to the chamber burst open. Federal agents in dark suits entered swiftly, their badges visible on lanyards around their necks. The chamber exploded into chaos as federal agents moved with practiced precision toward their targets. Reporters scrambled for better camera angles while council members shouted over each other. demanding explanations no one could provide. Whitaker shot up from his seat, his calm mask finally cracking. He grabbed his attorney's briefcase and pushed toward the side aisle, moving like a man who understood his world was collapsing in real time. "Excuse me, pardon me," he muttered, shouldering past confused spectators who had no idea they were watching a manhunt unfold. Detective Thorne rose from his seat near the wall. At 63, he moved slower than the federal agents, but his positioning was perfect. He stepped into Whitaker's path just as the sergeant reached the side exit. "Going somewhere, Cole?" Thorne's voice was quiet, almost conversational. Whitaker's face twisted with desperate anger. "Get out of my way, old man." "I do not think so." Thorne planted his feet wider, blocking the narrow aisle completely. "You ran from the truth long enough." A federal agent appeared behind Whitaker before he could shove past Thorne. "Sergeant Cole Whitaker, you are under arrest for conspiracy, theft of federal evidence, and obstruction of justice." The handcuffs clicked shut around Whitaker's wrists with a sound that cut through the chamber noise like a gunshot. His attorney watched helplessly as his client was led away, still protesting his innocence to anyone who would listen. Carver's reaction was more violent. He overturned his chair and bolted for the main exit, shoving past elderly spectators and nearly knocking over a camera operator. His size and desperation cleared a path through the crowd. "Stop him!" someone yelled, but Carver had already reached the double doors. He burst into the hallway outside the chamber, breathing hard and looking both ways like a trapped animal. The marble corridor stretched in both directions, lined with city offices and conference rooms. For a moment, it seemed like he might actually escape. Then, Federal Inspector Naomi Grant stepped out of an alcove directly into his path. She was in her 50s, built like someone who had spent decades chasing suspects, and completely unimpressed by Carver's size advantage. "Officer Brent Carver," she said calmly, "you are under arrest." Carver tried to bull past her, using his shoulder like a football player. Grant sidestepped smoothly and grabbed his wrist, twisting it behind his back with textbook precision. Carver hit the marble floor hard, his knees cracking against the stone. "Federal charges include theft, conspiracy, and civil rights violations," Grant continued as she cuffed him. "You have the right to remain silent." Camera crews poured into the hallway, capturing every second of Carver's arrest, his face pressed against the cold marble, hands secured behind his back, looking nothing like the intimidating officer who had humiliated travelers for years. Back in the chamber, Langford stood behind the council dais like it could protect him from what was happening. His political smile had vanished completely, replaced by the desperate calculation of a man watching his career disintegrate. "This is outrageous!" he shouted over the noise. "I demand immediate consultation with city legal. This is clearly political persecution designed to embarrass the mayor's office during budget negotiations." Inspector Grant returned to the chamber, straightening her jacket after wrestling Carver to the ground. She approached Langford with the same professional calm she had shown in the hallway. "Deputy Mayor Quentin Langford," she announced loud enough for every reporter to hear clearly. "You are under arrest for obstruction of justice, conspiracy to commit theft, and protection of criminal enterprise." Langford's face went pale. "You have no authority to arrest an elected official without—" "We have surveillance footage showing you entering restricted airport property to examine stolen goods," Grant interrupted. "We have financial records linking political donations to property seizures. We have witness testimony placing you in meetings where victim complaints were deliberately buried." She produced handcuffs from her belt. "You can surrender voluntarily, or we can do this the hard way in front of all these cameras." Langford looked around the chamber desperately, searching for allies who were suddenly very interested in their phones or notebooks. The council members, who had nodded along with his accusations, now avoided eye contact completely. "This is a witch hunt," he said weakly, but he extended his hands for the cuffs. The chamber fell almost silent as the metallic clicks echoed through the room. Every reporter captured the moment when Deputy Mayor Quentin Langford became just another defendant in handcuffs. News of the arrests spread faster than wildfire through City Hall. Soon, Airport Police Chief Warren Pike had submitted his resignation letter, citing family priorities and personal health concerns. Internal records later revealed he had ignored or buried complaints about Whitaker and Carver for years. The police union issued a statement withdrawing all support from Carver after reviewing the surveillance footage. Union representatives who had called him a victim that morning suddenly discovered they had never heard of him. City Legal called Talia's phone. Her suspension was officially lifted. All disciplinary actions were vacated and she was immediately reinstated to full command authority. The lawyer who delivered the news sounded like he was reading from a script prepared by people who wanted this problem to disappear as quickly as possible. The recovered evidence included more than anyone had expected. Whitaker had maintained a second storage location in an abandoned customs office filled with items seized from passengers over years. Loretta Beaumont's church envelope sat in a manila folder along with documentation showing exactly how much money had been stolen. Talia stood in the empty council chamber after the reporters and spectators had finally left. On the evidence table, Inspector Grant had placed 3 sets of badge and identification cards: Whitaker's sergeant stripes, Carver's officer shield, and Langford's City Hall credentials. For the first time in weeks, Talia allowed herself to breathe deeply. The afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of the regional terminal, casting long shadows across the same baggage claim area where Talia Voss had been humiliated less than 2 weeks earlier. Airport maintenance crews had arranged folding chairs in neat rows, creating a makeshift ceremony space near the carousel. The irony was intentional. Talia had requested this exact location. News vans lined the pickup area outside. Camera crews tested their equipment while reporters rehearsed their opening lines. Inside the terminal, passengers slowed their hurried pace to watch the preparations. Sensing something important was about to happen, Talia arrived through the main entrance, walking beside her mother with the steady confidence of someone who had fought for this moment. She wore her dress uniform, navy blue with crisp creases, brass buttons polished to mirror shine, and captain's bars that caught the afternoon light. The bruises on her wrist had faded, but the memory of handcuffs in this same space gave every step deeper meaning. Diana Voss moved carefully beside her daughter, leaning slightly on a wooden cane but refusing any other assistance. At 64, she carried herself with the dignity of a woman who had watched her late husband fight workplace discrimination for decades. Today felt like vindication for battles that had taken too long to win. "You look like your father in that uniform," Diana said quietly, as they approached the ceremony area. "He would be so proud." Talia adjusted her cap slightly. "He would probably tell me, 'The real work starts tomorrow.'" That is exactly what he would say. Diana's voice carried both pride and worry. "Just remember that winning does not make you safe, it makes you responsible." The crowd was larger than expected. Airport workers stood along the outer edges. Baggage handlers, security guards, cleaning staff, and maintenance crews who rarely received public recognition for anything. Retirees from Vivian's network filled the front rows, many wearing their Sunday best despite the weekday timing. City officials clustered near the podium, looking uncomfortable, but politically necessary. Detective Elias Thorne stood near the side wall, still wearing his basement assignment clothes, but carrying himself differently. At 63, he had stopped expecting vindication for the corruption he had tried to expose years earlier. Now he watched Talia with the satisfaction of someone who had finally backed the right person. Mateo Rivera waited nervously near the maintenance corridor entrance, dressed in his cleanest work uniform. His supervisor had guaranteed him protection from retaliation, but years of keeping quiet had taught him to worry about powerful people's promises. Still, he had come forward when it mattered most. Vivian Caldwell sat in the front row, wearing a navy blazer and holding the small purse that had contained her phone during Talia's arrest. At 68, she had spent decades protecting students and teachers from bullies. Recording that airport confrontation had been instinctive, the same impulse that had made her a legendary principal. Loretta Beaumont arrived exactly on time, accompanied by women from her church. She wore a burgundy dress and carried the same purse she had been holding when Whitaker and Carver detained her. The empty fundraiser envelope was tucked inside, kept as evidence of what they had stolen. Today she would finally get her money back. The ceremony began with Mayor Patricia offering a carefully worded apology on behalf of the city. Her speech acknowledged serious failures in oversight and accountability, while avoiding specific details that might complicate ongoing federal prosecutions. "Today we restore trust," the mayor announced to scattered applause. "Today we prove that justice is not negotiable." Inspector Grant stepped forward with a manila envelope containing the fundraiser cash, the exact amount stolen from Loretta's church. The bills were crisp and new, replacing the worn ones that congregation members had contributed for their community outreach program. "Mrs. Beaumont," Grant said formally, "on behalf of the federal investigation, I return what was unlawfully taken from you. Loretta accepted the envelope with shaking hands. She opened it carefully, counting the bills with the precision of someone who had managed church finances for years. When she finished, tears rolled down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered, then looked directly at the cameras. "I stopped flying after they made me feel like a criminal. Today, I know I was never the criminal." The crowd erupted in genuine applause, not polite political clapping, but the kind of sustained appreciation reserved for moments of real justice. Vivian received recognition next. Inspector Grant praised her courage in recording evidence when other passengers looked away or focused on their own safety. Mrs. Caldwell demonstrated that ordinary citizens have extraordinary power when they choose truth over convenience. Grant announced her actions protected not just Captain Voss, but every future passenger who might have faced similar treatment. Vivian stood briefly, waving to acknowledge the applause, then sat down quickly. She had never enjoyed being the center of attention, but she understood the importance of what her phone had captured. "I taught school for decades," she said into the microphone someone thrust toward her. "I know a bully when I see one. I also know what happens when good people stay quiet." Mateo received the strongest protection. The mayor announced that the city's whistleblower policy would be expanded specifically to protect airport workers who reported misconduct. Mateo would be offered a new position as civilian compliance liaison, working directly with the airport police to ensure proper procedures. Mr. Rivera risked his job and his family's security to tell the truth. The mayor said, "We will make sure that courage is rewarded, not punished." Thorne's promotion was announced with particular emphasis. The new Integrity Review Unit would have independent authority to investigate complaints against airport police, with direct reporting to federal oversight, rather than local command. Detective Thorne has waited too long for this opportunity. Inspector Grant said his integrity cost him advancement for years. Today, that integrity becomes the foundation for accountability. Finally, Talia stepped forward for her oath. Judge Rebecca Morrison, brought in specifically to avoid any appearance of political influence, administered the swearing-in with clear, precise language. "Do you solemnly swear to faithfully execute the duties of Captain of the Regional Airport Police Division, and to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the rights of all travelers regardless of race, religion, national origin, economic status, or any other characteristic?" "I do," Talia said firmly. "Do you swear to hold yourself and those under your command to the highest standards of integrity, service, and accountability?" "I do." "Then by the authority vested in me by the state, and with the support of federal oversight, I reinstate you as captain with full authority to reform, restructure, and rebuild this division." The applause was thunderous. Airport workers cheered. Church members stood and clapped. Even some of the city officials looked genuinely moved by the ceremony's emotional power. Talia took the podium for her first official address as captain. She announced immediate changes: a traveler rights desk staffed by trained advocates, priority assistance for seniors and vulnerable passengers, independent evidence controls managed by federal oversight, and mandatory body cameras for all officers with no ability to mute or disable them. "This division will serve every person who enters this airport with equal respect," she declared. "Rich or poor, citizen or visitor, young or old, everyone deserves dignity when they travel." As the ceremony concluded, people began moving toward the exits. Children who had watched from the edges started approaching Talia, curious about her uniform and the celebration they had witnessed. A young black girl, maybe 8 years old, walked up to Talia with the directness that only children possess. She looked up at the captain's bars, then at Talia's face. "Are you in charge?" she asked simply. Talia knelt slightly, bringing herself to the girl's eye level. Behind them, workers were already installing a new command plaque that read, "Captain Talia Voss, Integrity, Service, Accountability." Talia smiled genuinely, for the first time in weeks. "Yes, sweetheart. Today I am Suno." If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel, and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked 2 special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.